Hi, welcome again to the Old Principal 老校长的节目. This is lesson number 78, The Nursing Student. Actually, I had another title, and the title was Attitude, 态度. So, which one do you want? Well, you look at the lesson, and then we will see. The Nursing Student, and it's all about attitude. So with that, we need to bring Mrs. Ash out here. I must introduce you to my wife. Of course, you already know her. But once upon a time, about 100 years ago, when we were young, she almost took nursing.
That's right.
Almost. And that's a story in itself. But we won't talk about that story today. But if you'll help us read the story, then we can start our lesson.
Sure.
Here we go.
I was in my second month of nursing school. I was appalled at the fact that the teachers gave us a lot of homework, far beyond the time I had to study them, and the classes themselves had been difficult to understand. On my way to class one morning, I passed a woman who was scrubbing graffiti off the tile surface of the south wall. She glanced at me as I passed, but I paid her no attention. When I entered the classroom, I heard the usual buzz of conversation and headed for my seat in the second row. I asked the pardon of the students who were already seated as I squeezed through the tight space between their knees and the first row. Settled into my desk, I spread out my paper pad ready to write notes on the mechanics of blood flow. But before he began to speak, our professor gave us a surprise quiz. I had always studied the lesson for the class, even though I was unable to read the additional assignments. So I answered all the questions without difficulty, until he read the last one. What is the first name of the woman who cleans the school? Surely this question was some kind of a joke. I saw her just this morning on the way to class. She was tall, dark-haired, and in her 50s, but how would I know her name? I handed in my paper, leaving the last question blank. Just before the class ended, one student asked if the last question would count toward our quiz grade. Yes, it will, said the professor. In your careers, you will meet many people. All of them are important. They deserve your attention and care, even if all you do is smile and say hello. I also learned that the woman's name was Dorothy.
So she finally did figure out what the lady's name was.
Yes.
Well, that's an interesting story. I don't think this would be a problem with you because you make friends with everybody you ever meet.
Usually.
You're just like your father. You never meet a stranger. Okay? But we'll talk more about that if we have some time at the end.
Sure.
Okay? So you guys, you can warm up on that one. Okay? Okay, here we are, and we're talking about the nursing student, and we're talking about 一种态度, okay? The nursing student, okay? I was in my second month of nursing school. Okay, nursing 这个护士学校, okay? Now, second month, okay, already the second month. Okay, 第二个月. Okay, moving on. I was appalled. Okay, that's a nice big word. 震惊啊. I was appalled at the fact that the teachers gave us a lot of homework. You know what homework is? Anybody who's a student knows what homework is. Homework is 作业. And the teachers gave a lot of homework. Far beyond the time I had to study them. 超过我有的时间了，根本我就没有时间了，读这么多。And this is just the very beginning. This is only her second month. Okay? So, what do we have here? We have a student who is still very uncomfortable. 蛮不舒服. Too much homework. She doesn't quite understand, which we'll find out in just a minute. And then something very interesting happens to her. Going on. And the classes themselves had been difficult to understand. So, this was a subject, 那个科目是相当难的啊 difficult 很难明白或懂啊 Going on. On my way to class one morning, I passed by a woman who was scrubbing graffiti off the tile surface of the south wall. Okay, where are we going to start on this one? First of all, we're going to have to say, on my way to class in the morning. 她上学的时候 She passed a woman. Okay, to pass a woman, that means she walked by, 走过 a woman, 这个女人 who was scrubbing graffiti off the tile surface of the south wall. So when you look at, there are four things in this little line. There are four things that you have to pay attention to. So where are we going to start? First, she was scrubbing. Okay? Do you know what scrubbing is? Scrubbing is 擦洗. Okay? Or sometimes just 洗衣服的洗. To scrub something is to wash, very 努力的 scrub, to scrub or scrubbing. Graffiti. Oh, you know what graffiti is? Now, in a big city, like New York, 纽约, they have many, many walls, 很多墙壁, and people write on the walls. They're not supposed to, 不应该的, but they do it anyway. These words that they write up on the wall are called graffiti. 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 涂鸦. Okay. So, what does it say here? It says, I passed by a woman who was scrubbing graffiti off of, okay, it's the south wall, 南边的, okay, 南边的墙壁. But what was the wall made out of? 它的表面上是 the tile surface. 表面上 surface tile. 瓷器，瓷器，瓷片吗? Okay, and so she was washing the graffiti off of the tile surface of the south wall. Okay, now it's interesting. She noticed the woman, 注意. But then she was on her way to class and she had to hurry to class, and so she just kept on going, which all of us would do. 我相信不管是你也好，我也好, we would do it all exactly the same way. Going on. She glanced at me. 看了我一下. Glance just means 一下子就看我. And but I paid no attention. 但我故意的，可能是故意的。I just paid no attention. 我就不注意它，不注意它。Going on. When I entered the classroom, 进了课室, I heard the usual 我们一般的 buzz of conversation. Conversation. Okay? Conversation is people talking together. But you say the usual buzz. Buzz, 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 buzz. Talk, 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 talk. Buzz, 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 buzz. Talk, 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 talk. This is the buzz of conversation. Okay? And headed 向我的椅子 okay, 凳子 okay, headed is to move forward, to go toward. And sometimes we just say I headed for. That means I started walking toward my seat in the second row, 第二排 okay, 第二排. Going on. I asked pardon of the students who were already seated. Okay. 我向那些已经坐下来的学生 to ask pardon simply means 对不起，对不起，我要过去，对不起. This means to ask pardon. Okay. As I squeezed, now let's see if we can do this. If I squeezed between the space there, because their knees were very close to the what? To the seats beforehand, to the first row seats. So I had to kind of get in here a little bit, okay? And then I sat down. Going on. Settled into my seat. Settled means I just sat down and got myself all comfortable and everything. I'm feeling good about this. Usually we think we settle down. That means 安定下来. Settle. Often settle down means settle down to 安定下来. Okay? Okay. I spread out my paper pad. 它有一叠这个指头叠 pad 一叠指头 and I was ready to write my notes. 开始写这个笔记. Now, we'll see if I can figure out how to say this next one in Chinese. The mechanics of blood flow. Okay, first of all is 血液. Okay? Okay? And the mechanics is 动力. Okay? So it would be 血液动力血. Does that make sense? Anyway, mechanics is 动力 and 血 and flow is 流动. 流动. So it's basically it just means how the blood flows in your arms and legs and your body. Okay? Going on. But before he began to speak, oh dear, before he began to speak, the professor gave us a surprise quiz. Now, surprise means that they were not expecting it. 根本没想到 that he would give a 小考. A quiz is a 小考, okay? Just a little test. Not a big test, just a little test. Okay, going on. I had always studied the lesson for the class. So I had always studied the lesson for the class. 每一次我都预备好了 even though I was unable to read the additional assignments. Okay? Even though 在这个地方就是但是呢 I was unable to read 这个额外的一些作业. So they usually, professors, what do? They usually give extra in America, I was going to say English, in America we call it outside reading. Okay, and the outside reading is 要看书, but it's not in the 课本, not in the textbook. That is outside reading. So sometimes this lady said, I read everything, but sometimes I didn't have time to do what? I didn't have time to do the 额外的 outside reading. I just didn't have time. Going on. So, 因此, I answered all the questions. Okay? 还好, huh? She answered all the questions. Quite confident. Until, 直到, he read one last question. Until he read or spoke the last question. What is the first name of the woman who cleans the school? Oh my word! 那这个扫地的清洁的那位女人，她的签名是什么？ You know, we have a 姓，还有名字，她的名字。What is the first name? 她的名字。I don't know. And I'm sure about this time, everybody in the class says, huh? Okay, going on. Surely this question was some kind of joke. 肯定是搞笑的。肯定是开玩笑的。No way. I mean, hey, this has nothing to do. 根本跟做护士是无关的。Okay? Now, I saw her just this morning. 当然，我今天早上也看到她了。She was, okay, now here is her impression. And she had it pretty good. Okay, she was tall, dark-haired, and in her 50s. 50岁可能以上. But how would I know her name? 我怎么能够知道她的名字? Going on. I handed in my paper, leaving the last question blank. Okay, 我就叫我的考卷。但最后一个问题，当然 我是空的，我根本就没有什么可以回答的。Going on. Just before class ended, one student kind of sheepishly raised her hand and she said, asked if the last question would count. Okay, would count. In other words, 它会不会算在这个分数里面? Would it count toward the quiz grade? And next one. Here's what the professor said. Yes, it will. 还是会算这个呢? Okay, said the professor. In your careers. Okay, what is a career? A career is any type of work that you spend your life doing. 那么他们要做专业护士啊，所以你做专业护士就是 you will meet many people. Of course, 你会见到很多很多人。甚至于呢 Going on. All of them are important. All of the people that you meet are important. They deserve your attention. They deserve your attention. 等于说呢，我们你们呢都应该注意他们 Okay, they deserve your attention and care 关心 Okay, in this case 不但是你要注意他们，你要关心他们 care Okay, even if all you do is smile and say hello. Even if 最基本上你只要说笑 and say 早安 hello 你好 or anything like that 轻轻的打招呼 Going on. I've never forgotten the lesson. Of course, this is what the lady said. I've never forgotten the lesson. 从来没有忘记这个教训 Next. I also learned that the woman's name was Dorothy. 我也肯定是以后他就问他那位女人的名字是 Dorothy 跟女人的名字 Dorothy. Okay, with that we bring Mrs. Ash out here. We have a few minutes. Everybody is important. We have here the nurses and they're studying and they're taking tests and you didn't take nursing but you took music.
Yes.
You're a music teacher. Okay. But what do you think the professor's meaning is? Why did he give them this test question?
Well, I think that when they went into their professions later on as they graduated, they would need to remember this.
Remember what?
Remember to take extra care to learn who they're working with.
Okay, and even maybe we say those who are marginalized,
Yes.
这个在边边的一些人 marginalized. Nobody pays attention to a janitor or custodian. 这个清洁是叫 janitor or custodian，
Yes.
清洁。人们根本都不注意这些了啊。But she did learn the lesson. Okay, now, every morning, I maybe have said before, but I'll say it again, you have a habit to go exercising in the mornings.
Yes.
Now, Mrs. Ash, when she exercises in the morning, does it just a little bit different than I do. I am so focused and I am out exercising. For her, the important thing about exercise is
well, the exercise, but
Oh, yeah,
also to
no.
meet friends.
to meet friends. 要做一些新的朋友. So where we live on kind of a mountainside, on a side of a mountain. Okay? Well, I wouldn't say everybody, but many of the people up on the mountain know who she is. Why? Because every morning you go up there and then you stop and then you go ta 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 ta. So you have Adele, that's the lady with the dog.
Yes.
And then, Kenny is out there and he has a dog too. Okay, so you know all of these people. So, and she even knows their names, so you will pass the test. You are home free. Okay,
Good.
Hey, we got running out of time. Hey, you can write an email to us to the old principal at gmail.com. And our website is www.theoldprinciple.org. And with that, we're going to have to say goodbye. Come back and visit us again for another lesson. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.